Welcome back. You know, we talk a lot about Alberta because the new NDP government there is a disaster that's fresh, but there's been a long time disaster here in Ontario. Monte McNaughton joins me now. He's the official opposition critic for economic development, member of the Progressive Conservative Party. Monte, I can't even count how long Ontario has been in disaster mode. The Liberals have been in power here for how many years? Is it 10?
About 12 years
12 years now. Enough to turn it into a have-not province.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The deficits continue every single year. Our debt in the province is set to hit $300 billion. It's shocking.
That's the largest debt of anything that's not a country of its own in the world.
You're right.
That's crazy. You know, it's sad because, I mean, growing up as a kid in Alberta, we always thought, well, Ontario is the engine of the country. It's the biggest, the richest. You know, we in Alberta like to, think of ourselves as big too, but Ontario being a have-not province is it's like opposite day. It should not be that way, but it goes to the political culture. I mean, it's not that suddenly Ontario doesn't have industrious people. It's not that suddenly Ontario doesn't have mines or forests or things. It's the political culture's changed.
That's true. We have unlimited opportunity in the province of Ontario. Unfortunately, under Dalton McGuinty, now Kathleen Wynne, they continue to make political decisions that's driving Ontario further and further behind, and it's unfortunate for the families out there.
You know, we started a campaign recently called firebob.ca. It's about Bob Chiarelli, the energy minister. I can't believe the power prices, and it's not a blip. This is like a 20-year escalator. These prices are going to go up. If folks haven't signed yet, go to firebob.ca. But I want to talk to you about something fresh this week, a fresh scandal, and I think Ontarians might be getting numb to them. There's so often. The Auditor General's report has said that corporate welfare, like the $1 million checks to cronies of the government, well, you tell me, what did the Auditor General's report say? I want to hear it straight from you.
Well, it was a scathing report. Of course, the Auditor General talked about the electricity problems in that ministry, but they highlighted that $1.5 billion was handed out to companies across the province with no applications. I think that speaks to the cronyism
so they
that
didn't
we're
fill
seeing.
out a form, they just got a check.
No paperwork. In 90% of the cases, the companies didn't need the funding.
I got to fill out a form for anything with this guy. I got to fill out like 10 forms for a driver's license or for registration. So you're saying I got to fill out more paperwork to get a driver's license than people had to fill out to get millions of dollars?
Absolutely. Yeah, 90% of the funding that was handed out, the companies didn't need the money, and they didn't even want the money, but the government still handed it.
How do you go from not needing and not wanting money to getting money and not even having to fill out a form? Like that sounds so crooked. What did the Auditor General say? Did she say there was actual crimes going on? How did she explain it? Because the idea of giving someone money from the taxpayer's treasury that doesn't need it without paperwork, if that happened in a private sector company, there would probably be charges of embezzlement or fraud. What did the Auditor General say?
Well, the Auditor General said that there was no application process. Money was handed out from essentially a Liberal list.
They were Liberals.
Well, we're looking into that, but I said in question period that this is crony capitalism at its best, and the danger of politicians handing out blank checks essentially to companies is dangerous, and it's not in the best interest of taxpayers.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, in businesses, the idea of sending out a check without even an invoice is just unheard of. But you try and measure, okay, we spent $1 million, 10 million, $1 billion. What did we get? If a company didn't need it, didn't want it, there's no paperwork, how do you know if it worked? Unless the working part was just giving money to your friends, then you know it worked because you gave them the money, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, that's another thing the Auditor General highlighted, that there was no checks and balances in the process, so taxpayers don't know if there was any value to those grants being given, no idea how many jobs were created. We just know that $1.5 billion was spent, no oversight, and no accountability to the program.
You know, what irritates me is that so few people on the left in politics have a background in the private sector. I mean, in Alberta, there's not a single, let me take that back. In the entire caucus, there are 2 people who have had private sector experience, 2 out of their entire caucus, and they're not in cabinet. So every single cabinet minister in Alberta either comes from government or a union background. So to them, they don't know what business means. They think business is all corrupt because they hate business. So when they're in power, they think, oh, well, this is how business is done. You just cut money to your buddies because we hate capitalism, we don't understand it, so we're going to do it as a parody, like as a as someone who hates capitalism, thinks capitalism is government's cutting check. That's what they do.
Well, and that's what we're seeing here in Ontario, that attitude where politicians think that they can pick winners and losers in the economy, and taxpayers get shafted every time.
Give me an example. I just want one example of, I haven't gone through the Auditor General's report, I've just seen the headlines. Is there an example from there of just, I mean, it's all stupid, but is there a super stupid case that stands out?
Yeah, two. One, there's a company that was handed a $2.7 million grant to build wind turbines on residential properties, including on roofs of houses. That company has gone out of business and took the money and ran.
But that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that the minister's office was told not to give the money out, but they gave it anyways.
I'm not a wind expert, but even now, that doesn't make sense. I mean, in the city, a windmill at a mini golf course, that's about the only place. What's the other example?
Secondly, they were handing out grants to the Liberals for up to $130,000 per job. That's what taxpayers are on the hook for.
And who got that?
It was a company out of Toronto, a software company.
And I take it the jobs were paying less than, I mean, that's a very high salary. So they were paying more than the job actually. So it was just a gift to the company.
Yeah, I think the average employee makes about $55,000 a year.
So just a complete gift to the company.
Yeah, this is crony capitalism at its best.
It's not like the high-tech industry is undercapitalized. I mean, the tech industry, the .com, the internet industry, there are hundreds of billions of dollars flowing around in Toronto, in Vancouver, in San Francisco, in New York. If you've got an idea, you've got to be a bit of a loser to go to the Ontario government if no one else will give you money for your .com. But I guess if they're handing out free money, why not? Why not?
Yeah, a lot of companies at the trough, I'm sure, in Ontario.
Unbelievable. Monte McNaughton, good to see you. Keep up the fight. I hope that I will live long enough to break the Liberal rule over this province. It will take a long time to fix the holes they've been drilling in the bottom of the boat. I don't even know how long it'll pay down the third of $1 trillion debt. But the first rule of holes is when you're in one, stop digging. Hopefully you guys will do that.
Thanks.
Nice to see you, Monte.
Nice to see you.
All right, folks, stay with us. More.